The old rifle seemed out of place against the gleaming technology of America's most exclusive shooting range. So did Naomi Harris. Dark-skinned, silver-haired, dressed in simple clothes among tactical gear worth thousands. Colt Redding watched her enter with barely concealed contempt, nudging his associates as whispers spread through the room. Perfect target. Perfect joke. When they handed her the sabotaged weapon and cameras raised to capture her failure, no one noticed how her hands moved with practiced precision or how her eyes assessed every detail with military calculation. They couldn't see what the classified files had buried 15 years ago. That this quiet woman had eliminated more high-value targets than any sniper in history before the government erased her existence. "Grandma with a gun," someone muttered, but Whisper heard it clearly. And after years of silence, it was finally time to show these people what happens when you mock a ghost. Just before we get back to it, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. And if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow's special episode is one you definitely don't want to miss. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot of Precision Elite, the most exclusive shooting range in Virginia. A modest faded blue Toyota Corolla pulled into the lot, looking out of place among the gleaming Porsches, Range Rovers, and Teslas. Behind the wheel, Naomi Harris took a deep breath and adjusted her simple cotton blouse. At 62, her hair was streaked with silver, her face lined with quiet wisdom, her hands steady despite the years. "Are you sure about this, Aunt Naomi?" asked Alana, her niece, a bright-eyed journalist in her late 20s with ambitious dreams and a fire for justice. "These people can be pretty brutal." Naomi offered a gentle smile. "I'm just here to support your story, honey. Don't you worry about me." As they approached the ultra-modern facility with its glass and steel architecture, heads turned. Conversation quieted momentarily before resuming with subtle glances their way. The air inside smelled of gun oil, leather, and expensive cologne. Display cases showcased custom weapons that cost more than Naomi's house. Memberships here started at $50,000 annually, but Alana had secured visitor passes through her magazine connections. "Well, look what the wind blew in," boomed a voice from across the main lounge. Colt Redding, ex-Navy SEAL and current CEO of Red Point Weapons Technologies, strode toward them. His tailored suit barely contained his muscular frame, and his smile didn't reach his ice-blue eyes. At 45, he was the golden boy of the military-industrial complex, with government contracts worth billions and a reputation for ruthlessness clothed in patriotism. "You must be the journalist," he said too, Alana dismissing Naomi with barely a glance. "Unexpected +1. He nodded toward Naomi. Alana straightened her shoulders. "My aunt is an enthusiast. I thought she might enjoy seeing your facility while I work on my piece about accessibility in elite hobby spaces." Colt's eyebrow arched. "Enthusiast? Really?" His gaze drifted to the weathered leather case Naomi carried. "What's in the antique, ma'am? Family heirloom?" Before Naomi could answer, a circle of onlookers had formed. Tech moguls, retired generals, Wall Street predators, the upper echelon of America's power structure, all waiting for entertainment. "It's a Winchester Model 70, Naomi said quietly. "Made in 1952. A ripple of laughter spread through the group. "Hey, Colt," called out a ruddy-faced man in expensive tactical gear. "Think she knows which end the bullet comes out of?" Colt's smile widened. "Ma'am, we've got some pretty advanced systems here. Heat-sensitive moving targets, wind simulation, the works. Maybe you'd be more comfortable watching from the observation deck?" Naomi's expression remained neutral. "I'd like to try if that's all right." "Who gave Grandma a gun?" someone muttered, loud enough to be heard. Alana's face flushed with anger, but Naomi placed a calming hand on her arm. The older woman simply nodded politely, her composed nature clearly unnerving Colt more than any retort would have. "Your funeral," Colt shrugged. "We're running a little contest today anyway. Let's head to the premium range." The group moved through security doors to a cavernous indoor range unlike anything most civilian shooters ever experienced. Digital displays showed distances adjustable up to 1,000 yards. Robotic arms moved targets in unpredictable patterns, Shooters wore augmented reality glasses displaying wind conditions and other environmental factors. One by one, the elite took their turns. A software billionaire hit 8 out of 10 targets at 200 yards with a $15,000 custom rifle. A hedge fund manager with a military background did slightly better. Colt himself stepped up with a prototype from his company, a semi-automated system that adjusted for wind and movement, and hit 9 out of 10 at 300 yards. Not bad for an old man, he joked to appreciative laughter. Then he gestured toward Naomi. "Let's see what Grandma's got," Alana whispered. "You don't have to do this." "I know," Naomi replied, already opening her case. The rifle she removed was beautiful in its simplicity. No electronics, no tactical accessories, just wood and metal worn smooth by decades of handling. The crowd's mockery grew louder as she methodically checked the weapon, loaded a single round, and stepped up to the firing position. "We've got a betting pool going," Colt announced. 10 grand says she doesn't hit anything but the floor. Naomi didn't respond. She simply looked downrange, raised the rifle to her shoulder and became still, so still that the room grew quiet in spite of itself. Her breathing slowed visibly. 15 seconds passed. 20. The crowd began to shift uncomfortably, then a single shot. The crack echoed through the facility. On the digital display, a perfect bullseye at 400 yards. Before anyone could react, Naomi loaded another round and fired again. Another perfect hit. "Beginner's luck," someone muttered. Naomi loaded a third round. This time she adjusted her aim slightly to the left of the target. Colt laughed. "Correction coming. Guess the luck ran out." The shot rang out. The bullet struck a steel deflection peg at the edge of the range, ricocheted perfectly to hit a second peg, then a third, before striking a clay pigeon that had just been launched from a trap. Complete silence fell over the room. Naomi calmly packed her rifle away. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but carried throughout the stunned space. "Thank you for the opportunity." She walked toward the exit. Alana hurried after her, equally shocked. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" Alana asked when they reached the parking lot. Naomi's eyes held something distant, something her niece had never seen before. "It's been a while," she said simply. "Let's go." Behind them, through the glass doors, Colt Redding watched with a face, tight with something deeper than anger, a flicker of recognition and perhaps fear. The drive home was silent. Alana kept glancing at her aunt, seeing her with new eyes. The modest house Naomi had lived in for the past 15 years revealed nothing unusual. Family photos, worn, comfortable furniture, a small garden visible through the kitchen window. Nothing to suggest the woman who had just left the country's most elite marksman speechless. "I'll make some tea," Naomi said, hanging her jacket on the hook by the door. "Aunt Naomi," Alana started, setting her laptop bag down. "What just happened back there?" Naomi filled the kettle, her movements efficient and precise. "You wanted to show contrast for your story. I think you got it." "That's not what I mean, and you know it." Alana sat at the kitchen table. "Nobody shoots like that without training, serious training." The older woman's hands paused briefly on the tea canister. For a moment, Alana thought she saw something, a flicker of memory, perhaps pain, cross her aunt's features. "Everyone has a past, honey," Naomi finally said. "Some parts of mine are just quieter than others." Mississippi, 1973, the summer. Heat pressed down like a blanket as 10-year-old Naomi balanced on a wooden crate on the back porch of her grandfather's small farm. William Harris, a wiry man with kind eyes and calloused hands, adjusted her stance. "That's it, little one. Now remember what I told you about breathing." Naomi nodded seriously. "Breathe in halfway, breathe out halfway, then hold. Good girl. And what about the wind? Watch the trees. If the leaves move, the bullet moves." Her grandfather chuckled. "Smart as a whip, just like your grandmother." He pointed to a row of cans set up along the fence. "Now take your time. A gun isn't about hurrying. It's about patience." Naomi squinted down the barrel of the old .22 rifle, focusing on a rusted bean can 30 yards away. She breathed, held, and squeezed the trigger gently. The can flew backward with a satisfying ping. I did it, Grandpa. I did it. She jumped with excitement. You sure did. He ruffled her hair, pride evident in his eyes. But remember what I always say, a gun isn't a toy, it's a responsibility, Naomi recited. And you never pointed at anything you don't intend to destroy. William nodded solemnly. That's right. The day may come when you need this skill to put food on the table or protect yourself. But I pray you never have to use it for anything but tin cans and paper targets. Back in the present, Naomi poured hot water over tea bags, the steam rising between them like the years. Grandpa taught me to shoot when I was 10, she offered. He was patient, methodical. Alana accepted the mug with a nod. But what I saw today went way beyond backyard plinking, Aunt Naomi. That was military-grade skill. Naomi sipped her tea. I served, you know that. You told us you were a supply officer. 20 years, retired as a master sergeant. That's what my discharge papers say. Something in her tone made Alana lean forward. What aren't you telling me? Instead of answering, Naomi rose and walked to a small desk in the corner. From a drawer, she removed a yellowed newspaper clipping and handed it to her niece. Local Girl Shocks County Shooting Competition, Naomi Harris, 17, outscores adult men to take first prize. The grainy photo showed a teenage Naomi holding a trophy, serious-faced, despite the achievement. That competition changed everything, Naomi said quietly, returning to her seat. A man approached me afterward. Crew cut, perfect posture. Said he was a recruiter. Said I had a gift that shouldn't be wasted. Rural Mississippi, 1980 the county. Fairgrounds swarmed with spectators and competitors for the annual shooting competition. 17-year-old Naomi stood out, one of only 3 women competing, and by far the youngest. You sure you're in the right place, girl? Asked a bearded man in a flannel shirt, eyeing her skeptically. Naomi just nodded, adjusting her stance. At the firing line. The course was challenging. Stationary targets at varying distances, followed by moving targets. 20 shots total. When the final scores were tallied, the announcer seemed almost embarrassed. First place, Naomi Harris with a score of 98 out of 100. As she accepted the modest trophy, a tall man in civilian clothes approached. He introduced himself as Captain James Miller. That was impressive shooting, especially from someone your age, he said, handing her a card. The Army could use talents like yours. We have programs that could develop what you can do. Naomi tucked the card away, not giving it much thought at the time. But 3 months later, with limited options in her small town, and college financially out of reach, she called the number. Alana set down her mug. So you enlisted because of your shooting? Partly, Naomi acknowledged, but also because I wanted more than what was available to a black girl from rural Mississippi in 1980. She fell silent then, lost in thought. Alana watched her aunt, the professional journalist in her, sensing a much bigger story than she'd anticipated. What happened after you enlisted? Naomi's expression grew distant. Basic training, advanced training, then sniper school, though they didn't call it that for women back then. Wait, sniper school? But women weren't allowed in combat roles. Then, officially, Naomi agreed. But unofficially, the military has always found ways to use talent when they need it, regardless of policy. Alana pulled out her notebook, journalist instincts fully engaged. I want to understand, Aunt Naomi. Would you mind if I look into your service record? A shadow crossed Naomi's face. You won't find much, not in the official channels. Over the next week, Alana dug deep into military archives and databases, calling contacts and cashing in favors. What she found, or rather didn't find, was disturbing. Naomi's records existed, but they were suspiciously thin. Entire years were summarized in single sentences. Commendations were mentioned, but details were redacted. Even her last known base assignment, listed as Camp Freeman, didn't appear on any official military installation lists. When Alana presented her findings to Naomi, the older woman didn't seem surprised. They were thorough, she said simply. Had to be. Who's they? Alana pressed. What were you involved in, Aunt Naomi? Naomi stared out the window for a long moment before answering. Have you ever heard of Black Echo? Alana shook her head. Good. That means they did their job. Naomi's voice took on a new edge. Black Echo was a unit that didn't exist, composed of soldiers who didn't exist, doing things that never happened. A Black Ops unit? More than that. We were the ones too. Controversial, to be acknowledged. Women when women weren't supposed to be in combat. People of color who were too visible for traditional special forces. People whose very existence would raise questions about military policy. Fort Benning, 1982. Naomi stood at attention, the only woman and one of only 3 black soldiers in the specialized training group. Despite outscoring many of her male counterparts, she was constantly passed over, relegated to support roles, her skills underutilized, until the day Colonel Raymond Jackson pulled her aside after qualification. Private Harris, he said, his voice low. Your file has come to my attention. I'll be straight with you. The Army doesn't know what to do with someone like you. Sir? She asked, uncertain. A woman with your skills creates administrative difficulties. Some believe you'd be better suited to a desk. Naomi's heart sank, but she maintained her composure. However, Jackson continued, others recognize talent shouldn't be wasted because of politics. I've been authorized to offer you an alternative path, unofficial, challenging, potentially dangerous, but your abilities would be put to full use. What kind of path, sir? One that doesn't officially exist. You'd be deployed on missions that never happened. Your achievements would never be publicly recognized. He studied her face. Most people need acknowledgement, Harris. Glory, recognition. If that's what you're after, this isn't for you. Naomi thought about her grandfather's words about responsibility and purpose. Will I be helping people, sir? Jackson nodded slowly. In ways few others can. Then I don't need the glory. Black Echo, Naomi explained to her astonished niece, operated globally but off every radar. Rescue missions, intelligence gathering, target elimination. When conventional forces couldn't go in, political complications, deniability requirements, they sent us. How many missions? Alana asked, scribbling notes. Classified. For how long? 15 years. Alana looked up. 15 years of missions. That never happened? No recognition? No acknowledgement? That was the deal. Naomi's voice hardened slightly. Until it wasn't. Before Alana could press further, her phone buzzed with an incoming email. The subject line read simply, about Naomi Harris. The body contained only a blurry photograph. A younger Naomi, maybe 40, wearing desert camouflage, holding a small child wrapped in a blanket. Behind her, flames and smoke rose from a building. Her rifle was slung across her back, and despite the chaos around her, her expression was completely calm. What is this? Alana whispered, turning the phone toward her aunt. Naomi's face went still. Kandahar, 2004. Classified operation. Hostage rescue. She took a deep breath. Someone's breaking silence. That's concerning. Who would send this? And why now? I don't know. Naomi took the phone, studying the image. But someone's trying to tell you something. Across town, in a penthouse office overlooking the city, Colt Redding reviewed surveillance footage from the shooting range incident. Frame by frame, he analyzed Naomi's technique, her breathing pattern, her trigger discipline. Run it through recognition again, he ordered his security chief. Sir, we've already tried. Harris, Naomi. Master Sergeant, U.S. Army. Retired 2005. Supply logistics. Nothing unusual. Bullshit. Colt slammed his fist on the desk. Nobody in supply. Logistics shoots like that. Nobody but... He trailed off, eyes narrowing. Sir, access my personal files. Operation Sandstorm 2005. Cross-reference with call sign Whisper. The security chief looked uncomfortable. Sir, those files are sealed by Pentagon directive. Even accessing them could... Just do it, Colt snapped, turning back to the screen, freezing on Naomi's face at the moment of her impossible ricochet shot. I know who you are, he whispered to the image. I just can't prove it yet. That evening, as Naomi prepared dinner, a plain envelope was slipped under her front door. No. Postmark, no return address. Inside was a single rifle cartridge, a specific kind used for long-range precision shooting. Beneath it lay a handwritten note. You're not the only one they erased. Naomi held the bullet up to the light, examining it carefully. Her hands, which had remained perfectly steady at the shooting range, now trembled slightly. Who is it? Alana asked from the doorway, having seen the envelope's arrival. Someone from the past, Naomi replied quietly. Someone who knows what's coming. What does that mean? What's coming? Naomi tucked the bullet and note into her pocket. War, she said simply. Of a very specific kind. She turned toward the kitchen window, gazing out at the darkening sky. They've spent 20 years pretending I don't exist. Now they're about to remember why. Naomi's unexpected display of skill at the precision elite range had spread through certain circles like wildfire. The whispers reached Colt Redding as he sat in his corner office, overlooking the Virginia skyline. On his desk lay a dossier, frustratingly incomplete, about Naomi Harris. Sir, the event is confirmed for Saturday, his assistant said from the doorway. We've secured exclusive streaming rights through Battlesphere. Colt nodded without looking up. And our special guest? Ms. Harris received the invitation this morning. Her niece called to confirm attendance. A cold smile spread across Colt's face. Perfect. The invitation Naomi received was printed on heavy cardstock with gold embossing. A Veterans Honor shooting competition to benefit wounded warriors. It mentioned Naomi specifically as a distinguished guest who would be recognized for her service. What it didn't mention was Colt Redding's true intentions. I don't like this, Alana said, examining the invitation at Naomi's kitchen table. Why would he invite you after what happened? Naomi sipped her coffee thoughtfully. Either to make amends or to set a trap. She set down her mug. Likely the second. Then why go? Because sometimes, Naomi replied, you need to trigger the trap to expose the trapper. The event was elaborate, hosted at Red Point Technologies' private testing facility. Red, white, and blue bunting draped the entrance. Corporate sponsors had logos prominently displayed. A small crowd of influential people mingled, sipping champagne and discussing weapons with animated enthusiasm. When Naomi arrived with Alana, cameras turned their way. Colt approached, all smiles and outstretched hand. Ms. Harris, so glad you could make it. His voice carried for the benefit of nearby microphones. We're honored to have a veteran of your experience join us today. Naomi shook his hand, her expression neutral. Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Redding. Please call me Colt. He gestured to a waiting assistant. We have a special place for you in our program. But first, we'd like to present you with this token of appreciation. The assistant came forward with a polished wooden box. Inside was a gleaming trophy with an engraved plate. In recognition of service and participation, cameras flashed. Naomi accepted it with grace, though Alana noticed her aunt's subtle tensing at the wording. Participation, not excellence or skill. And now, Colt continued, we'd be honored if you'd demonstrate your expertise for our guests and viewers at home. He gestured toward the shooting range. We've prepared a special rifle for you. A technician approached with a sleek modern rifle, a Red Point Precision X9, the company's flagship product. It looked impressive, but Naomi's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly as she examined it. This is too generous, she said carefully. Nothing but the best for our veterans, Colt replied smoothly. Please, the audience is waiting. The range was set up with cameras to capture every angle. A digital display showed the target at 500 yards, challenging but not impossible for someone of Naomi's skill. The crowd quieted as she took position. Alana watched from the sidelines, her journalist's instincts flaring. Something felt wrong. The way the technician smirked, the expectant look in Colt's eyes. Naomi raised the rifle, adjusting her stance. She took a breath, aimed, and fired. The shot went wide, missing the target entirely. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Naomi frowned, adjusted, and fired again. Another miss, this one even farther off. Laughter, quiet at first, then louder, spread through the audience. Colt's smile widened. Perhaps the modern equipment is different from what you're used to, he suggested, loud enough for everyone to hear. Naomi examined the rifle more carefully, running her fingers along the barrel and checking the scope. To most observers, she looked confused, overwhelmed by the technology. But Alana caught the flash of recognition in her aunt's eyes. Naomi lowered the weapon. "Thank you for the opportunity," she said, echoing her words from their first encounter. But this time they were met with outright laughter. Colt stepped forward, taking the rifle. "Let me show you how it's done." He fired 3 quick shots, all perfect bullseyes. The crowd applauded enthusiastically. "Don't feel bad," he told Naomi, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "These systems are designed for professionals." The humiliation was complete. Cameras captured every moment of Naomi's apparent incompetence. As they left the event, Alana was fuming. "He set you up. That rifle was rigged, wasn't it?" Naomi walked steadily toward the car. Barrel was off-center. Scope was misaligned. "Yes. We should expose him. I can write." "No," Naomi cut her off. "Not yet. But he publicly humiliated you. Already the video is trending online. Our granny with a gun is going viral." Naomi's expression remained calm. "Let them laugh. Arrogance makes people careless. How can you be so composed?" Alana demanded as they reached the car. "Don't you care that millions of people are mocking you?" Naomi finally turned to her niece, her eyes suddenly intense. "They don't understand that war is quieter than this." The statement hung in the air. Between them, laden with meaning Alana couldn't fully grasp. Back in his office, Colt replayed the footage, satisfaction evident on his face. His security chief stood nearby, watching with professional detachment. "Mission accomplished, sir? The video's getting traction. Her reputation is shot." Colt shook his head. "This was just step 1. If she's who I think she is, this won't stop her. It might not even slow her down." "And who do you think she is exactly?" Colt swiveled his chair, pulling up a classified file on his private server. "During my last deployment, there were rumors about a sniper. Call sign Whisper. Never saw her face, never heard her voice, but she had a signature style. Could make shots no one else would attempt. The brass denied she existed, called her a combat myth." His face hardened. "But I saw her work up close in Congo. 2005. You think this old woman is some mythical sniper?" The security chief sounded skeptical. "I think," Colt replied, "she's the most lethal shot in modern military history. And if I'm right, exposing and eliminating her publicly will cement Redpoint's dominance in the AI weapons market." "Eliminating?" The security chief shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, that sounds like business," Colt finished. "Our new targeting system needs a dramatic debut. What better than defeating the legend no one could ever confirm? The ghost sniper, finally revealed and outmatched by technology." He closed the file. "Put a tail on her. I want to know every move she makes." That evening, Naomi stood in her modestly sized backyard. 50 yards away, she had placed a coffee mug on a fence post. The night was quiet, only distant traffic occasionally breaking the silence. She raised her old Winchester, took a breath, and fired a single shot. The handle of the mug shattered precisely, leaving the body intact. Inside the house, Alana was on the phone with a contact, a retired Colonel Marcus Mendoza, who had served as a liaison to Special Forces units. "Colonel, I'm researching a story about unconventional units from the early 2000s. Does the name Black Echo mean anything to you?" A long silence followed. "Where did you hear that name?" Mendoza finally asked, his voice cautious. "I'm looking into the military background of a woman named Naomi Harris. She mentioned—" "Stop," Mendoza interrupted. "Not over the phone. Meet me tomorrow. The coffee shop on Willow Street, 10 a.m. He paused. "And Ms. Jenkins, if Harris is who I think she is, be careful who you share this with, especially if Colt Redding is involved." "How did you know about Redding?" Alana asked, surprised. "Because he's been looking for her for years." The line went dead. Alana turned to find Naomi, standing in the doorway, rifle in hand. "Colonel Mendoza?" Naomi asked. "You heard?" "I did." Naomi set the rifle down carefully. He was one of the few who knew the truth about Black Echo. "If he's talking, things are worse than I thought." "What do you mean?" "The protocols were absolute. No acknowledgement ever. If Mendoza is willing to meet, he believes the danger of silence now outweighs the danger of speaking." She moved to the window, scanning the street outside. "We're being watched," Alana joined her. "I don't see anyone. Dark sedan, 2 blocks down. Been there since we got home." Naomi stepped away from the window. "Pack a bag. Essentials only. We're leaving in an hour." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere I should have returned to a long time ago." The next morning, in a quiet corner of the coffee shop, Colonel Mendoza sat ramrod straight despite his 70 years. His silver hair was cut military short, his eyes constantly scanning the room. "Thank you for meeting me," Alana began. "I'm not here for you," Mendoza replied bluntly. "I'm here because if Naomi Harris is back on the radar, people need to be warned." "Warned? About what?" "She's my aunt, a retired Army." "Your aunt," Mendoza interrupted, "is the most dangerous person I ever worked with, and I ran ops with Delta Force and SEAL Team 6. He leaned forward. "If she's connected to this Red Point mess, tell Colt Redding one thing from me. If she's Whisper, she's more dangerous than anyone he ever faced." "Who is Whisper?" Alana pressed. Mendoza's expression darkened. "A ghost. 32 confirmed long-range eliminations, probably twice that unconfirmed. Could hit targets other snipers claimed were impossible." He took a sip of coffee. "After Congo, the higher-ups wanted her buried. Too many questions about having a woman in combat. Too many questions about civilian casualties that weren't her fault." "What happened in Congo?" "Classified, but I'll tell you this. Colt Redding was there. His intel was compromised. People died who shouldn't have. Whisper saved who she could." Alana leaned back, processing. "And you think my aunt is this Whisper?" Mendoza stood, leaving his coffee half-finished. "I don't think anything. Officially, no one named Whisper ever existed. Black Echo never existed. But if she is who I suspect, and if Redding is coming after her..." He buttoned his coat. God help him. Unbeknownst to either of them, a bearded man in worn jeans and a leather jacket sat at a nearby table, seemingly absorbed in a newspaper. His weathered face was partially hidden by sunglasses, but his attention was focused entirely on their conversation. When Mendoza left, the man folded his paper and followed at a distance. Outside, he paused to watch the colonel drive away, then pulled out a burner phone. "She's surfaced," he said quietly, "and Redding is hunting her." The voice on the other end was gruff. "You sure it's her? Whisper?" "It's her. I'd know that description anywhere." The man glanced back at the coffee shop where Alana remained. "What's the play, Ranger?" "Protect and observe. I'll be in touch." Across town, Naomi was packing her modest SUV when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Watch the announcement at noon. Things are accelerating." Matt noon precisely. Red Point Technologies released a promotional video on all major networks and streaming platforms. Colt Redding, looking polished and presidential, stood before a cutting-edge weapons display. "Today we unveil the future of precision targeting, the Aura 7 AI combat system. This revolutionary technology can outperform any human sniper, eliminating human error and emotion from the battlefield." The camera panned to a sleek drone-like device mounted with an advanced rifle system. "To demonstrate Aura 7's capabilities, we're issuing a challenge to any military or civilian marksman. Next week at our Virginia Proving Grounds, Aura 7 will compete against human snipers in the most rigorous test of precision ever devised." His smile turned predatory as he added, "We're especially hoping to attract veterans with exceptional skills who may have been overlooked by traditional recognition systems." The message couldn't have been clearer. It was a public challenge to Naomi, to Whisper. Naomi watched the announcement on her phone, her expression unreadable. When it finished, she deleted the text and continued loading the car. "We're still leaving?" Alana asked, joining her with a small suitcase. "More important now than ever." As they pulled away from the house, Naomi drove with purpose, heading west toward the Blue Ridge Mountains. From a distance, the dark sedan that had been watching the house began to follow. After an hour of driving, Naomi suddenly accelerated, took a series of quick turns through a small town, then doubled back on a Forest Service road. The maneuver was executed with such precision that their tail lost them within minutes. "How did you—" "Never mind," Alana said, watching the road behind them. "Are you going to tell me where we're going now?" "Somewhere I hope still exists," Naomi replied, turning onto an unmarked dirt road that wound deep into the Appalachian wilderness. The cabin appeared suddenly. A simple structure built of logs and stone, nearly invisible among the trees. It looked weathered but solid, with a small covered porch and narrow windows positioned for optimal visibility of the surroundings. "What is this place?" Alana asked as they parked. "Safe house." Black Echo maintained several across the country. Naomi retrieved a key from beneath a specific stone in the pathway. "Haven't been here in 15 years. Let's hope the protocols were maintained." Inside, the cabin was sparse but functional. A layer of dust covered everything, but otherwise it appeared untouched. Naomi went directly to a bookshelf and removed a specific volume, The Art of War. Behind it was a small keypad. She entered. A code and a section of the floor slid open, revealing a ladder down to a hidden bunker. "Come on," she said, descending into the darkness. The bunker was climate-controlled and surprisingly well-preserved. One wall held weapons in locked cases. Another displayed maps and photographs. Filing cabinets lined a third wall, while a communications station occupied the fourth. Alana stared in disbelief. "This has been here all this time?" Black Echo operated independently. We needed resources they couldn't deny providing. Naomi opened a cabinet and removed a folder labeled Personnel Classified. Inside were photographs and dossiers of a dozen individuals. She spread them on a table. "My team," she said softly. "The ones they erased." Alana examined the photos. Men and women of various ethnicities, all with the same intense focus in their eyes that she'd begun to recognize in her aunt. What happened to them? Some died in the field. Some disappeared into civilian life. Others, Naomi's voice hardened. Others were eliminated when they became inconvenient. She pointed to one photo, a younger man with sharp features and intense eyes. Thomas Reed, call sign Ranger, best spotter I ever worked with, officially killed in action in 2006. Her finger moved to another photo. Maria Delgado, Cipher, communications expert, training accident in 2007. Another photo. James Wilson, Shadow, infiltration specialist, suicide in 2008. You don't believe the official stories? I know they're lies. Naomi opened another folder, this one labeled Congo, 2005. This is where it all fell apart. The file contained mission briefings, target information, and after-action reports, all heavily redacted, but one name appeared repeatedly in the margins, Colt Redding. He was CIA liaison for our operation, Naomi explained. Provided intelligence on a warlord using child soldiers. We went in based on his intel. Her voice remained steady, but her eyes betrayed deep emotion. The intel was wrong, deliberately wrong. Why would he do that? Because the warlord was actually a government official running a black market operation that benefited certain American interests. Redding was protecting him. We were sent to eliminate a decoy. Naomi's hand tightened on the folder. When I realized the deception, I aborted the official target and redirected to extract the children being held as soldiers. Against orders? Against everything. Direct violation of mission parameters. But I couldn't leave those kids. Naomi closed the folder. After that, Black Echo was decommissioned, records purged. Some of us were given cover identities and sent back into normal military roles. Others weren't so lucky. She reached into her pocket and withdrew the bullet that had been left at her door. This is a round used exclusively by Ranger. If he's alive and reaching out now, it means one thing. What? War, Naomi said simply. And Colt Redding is the target. Night fell over the cabin, wrapping it in mountain darkness. Naomi had checked and secured the perimeter, set up motion sensors from the bunker's supplies, and prepared basic defensive positions. Now she sat by the window, a cup of tea cooling beside her, her rifle within reach. Alana worked at the cabin's small table, organizing her notes and piecing together the fragments of her aunt's secret history. "Why did you agree to come to Redding's event?" she asked. "You had to know it was a trap." "I needed to confirm his intentions," Naomi replied, without turning from the window. "Now I know. He wants to flush me out, force me to reveal myself publicly, then use his AI system to defeat me. For what purpose? Military contracts. If his Aura 7 can outperform the legendary Whisper, every military in the world will want it." Naomi took a sip of her tea. "Plus personal revenge. I embarrassed him in Congo by exposing his lie. Men like Redding don't forget such things." A soft beep from Naomi's phone interrupted them. She checked the screen, then quickly moved away from the window. "Kill the lights," she ordered. "Now!" Alana complied immediately. The cabin plunged into darkness. "What is it?" she whispered. "Motion sensors. 3 triggers on the south approach. Professional pattern." Naomi moved silently to her rifle and checked the magazine. "Get to the bunker. Lock the hatch. I'm not leaving you alone. This isn't a debate." Naomi's voice was calm but firm. "Bunker. Now." Reluctantly, Alana descended the ladder and secured the hatch as instructed. Through small air vents, she could faintly hear what happened above. For several minutes, there was only silence. Then, a subtle creak on the porch. The cabin door eased open with a whisper of hinges. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving with practiced stealth. A voice barely audible. "Clear the corners. She's here somewhere." What followed was a symphony of violence conducted in near silence. A sudden thud, a choked gasp, the sound of a body falling. A brief scuffle from another room, ending in a sharp crack. 2 gunshots, suppressed little, more than coughs in the night, followed by complete stillness. 10 minutes later, the bunker hatch opened. Naomi descended the ladder, a small cut above her eye, the only evidence of conflict. "It's safe," she said simply. Upstairs, Alana found 3 men in tactical gear, unconscious or dead, their weapons secured. Naomi had already begun searching them for identification. "Mercenaries," she concluded, examining a satellite phone from one man's pocket. "Private contractors, expensive ones. Are they?" 2 unconscious, 1 dead. "He didn't give me a choice." Naomi's voice held no apology, just fact. "They're Redding's men, sent to find us, probably to eliminate us if convenient." She placed a handwritten note on the chest of the squad leader. "Wrong house. Next time, I shoot first." "We need to move," she told Alana. "This location is compromised." "Where will we go?" "Deeper into the mountains. I have one more place." Naomi packed efficiently, taking only essentials and select files from the bunker. "We need to be gone before their check-in time passes." As they loaded the car, Alana struggled to reconcile the aunt she'd known all her life with the lethal operative she'd just witnessed in action. "How many times have you done this?" she asked. As they drove away, lights off, navigating by moonlight. "Done what?" "Neutralized a tactical team. Alone. In the dark." Naomi was silent for a moment. "Enough times that it feels like muscle memory." 3 hours and numerous backroad detours later, they arrived at another cabin. Smaller, more remote, virtually invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. Built into the side of a ravine, it had clear sight lines in all directions and multiple escape routes. Once inside, Naomi secured the perimeter before bringing in their supplies. This cabin also had a hidden space. Not a bunker, but a concealed room behind the fireplace, accessible by rotating a specific stone in the hearth. Here was Naomi's personal archive, medals never officially awarded, photographs of her team in various locations around the world, mission logs handwritten to avoid digital tracking, and most prominently, her primary weapon, a customized Macmillan TAC 338 sniper rifle, preserved in perfect condition. "This is who I really am," Naomi said, watching Alana take in the room. "Not the aunt who brought you birthday presents, not the retired sergeant who volunteers at the VA hospital. This. Alana moved to a photograph showing a younger Naomi with 4 other soldiers, all smiling despite the desert heat visible in the background. Your team? What remained of it by 2004. That's Ranger. She pointed to the man Alana recognized from the dossier photo. Maria, James, and Eric. What happened to Eric? Naomi's face softened slightly. Heart attack 3 years ago, the only one who died a natural death. She turned away from the photo. We made a pact after Congo. If one of us was ever exposed or targeted, the others would come. But after what happened to Maria and James, I stopped believing anyone was left. She removed the bullet from her pocket again. Until this arrived. The sound of a vehicle approaching sent them both into alert mode. Naomi moved to a small window with a view of the access road, rifle ready. A single figure approached on foot. Tall, bearded, moving with military precision despite his apparent age. Naomi's breath caught. It's him. Who? Ranger. She opened the door before he could knock. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. 2 ghosts from a classified past, reunited after 15 years. Whisper, he said finally, his voice rough with emotion and years. You're supposed to be dead, she replied. So are you. A hint of a smile crossed his weathered face. Naomi stepped aside to let him enter. No embrace, no dramatic reunion, just the quiet acknowledgement of soldiers who had seen too much together to need such gestures. Inside, Ranger nodded to Alana. The journalist niece. You've been busy. This is Thomas Reed, Naomi introduced him. Former Master Sergeant, Army Rangers. Before Black Echo recruited him. Just Ranger now, he corrected. Haven't been Thomas Reed since 2006. He placed a file on the table. Recent surveillance photos of Colt Redding, blueprints of Red Point's facilities, and details about the Aura 7 system. He's placed a bounty on you. 5 million private channels. Only. If you're killed during his public demonstration, Aura 7's value doubles overnight. Ranger's expression darkened. It's not just business for him, though. It's personal. Congo, Naomi nodded. More than that. You're the loose end that proves everything. The Black Echo operation, the falsified intelligence, the civilian casualties he caused. Ranger sat heavily in a chair. He's been hunting all of us for years, found Maria in Venezuela, James in Oregon. And you? Nearly got me in Alaska. I've been off-grid since. He studied Naomi. Why come back now? Why risk exposure at that shooting range? I didn't, Naomi explained. Alana brought me there for her story. Pure coincidence. There are no coincidences in our world, Whisper. Ranger turned to Alana. Did someone suggest that specific range to you? Alana thought back. My editor. He said it would be perfect for my piece on elite hobby spaces. Your editor's name? William Brandt. Ranger and Naomi exchanged a look. What? Alana asked. William Brandt died in 2010, Ranger said quietly. Former CIA worked with Redding in Africa. Someone's been playing a very long game. The implications settled over the room like a heavy cloud. Alana had been unknowingly used as bait to draw Naomi out. I'm so sorry, she whispered, horrified. I had no idea. Not your fault, Naomi assured her. But it means we have less time than I thought. Redding has been planning this for years. She moved to her weapon case and began methodically checking her rifle, falling into the familiar routine of someone preparing for combat. I don't need new tech, she told them as she worked. I am the weapon. Alana watched her aunt transform before her eyes, posture straightening, movements becoming more precise, eyes taking on the focused intensity she'd seen in those old photographs. What's your plan? Ranger asked. Redding wants Whisper? He gets Whisper. But not on his terms. You can't just walk into his facility, it's a fortress. I don't intend to. Naomi loaded her rifle with practiced efficiency. But I do intend to tell my story. The real story. She turned to Alana. That's where you come in. Alana straightened. What do you need? Write it. All of it. Black Echo, Congo, the cover-up. But publish it as fiction. Fiction? A novel about a legendary sniper erased from history. Call it Whisper in the Wind. Publish it anonymously. It gives us plausible deniability while still getting the truth out. It won't be enough to stop him, Ranger cautioned. No, Naomi agreed. But it's a start. A distraction while we plan the real operation. She looked at the photo of her team one more time, then back to the rifle in her hands. You buried me alive, Colt, she whispered. Let's see if you're ready. For me to rise. As night deepened around the cabin, the three began to plan in earnest. Alana started writing, transforming classified history into fiction that would soon spread across the internet. Ranger created secure communications with other veterans who might help. And Naomi, Whisper, prepared for a confrontation 15 years in the making. The hunter was about to become the hunted. Dawn broke over the mountains, casting long shadows across the cabin where Naomi, Ranger, and Alana had worked through the night. Coffee cups littered the table alongside maps, blueprints, and handwritten notes. Alana's laptop showed the final draft of what would soon become an underground sensation. It's ready, she said, running a hand through her disheveled hair. I've sent it to 3 independent publishers under a pseudonym. No digital trail back to me. Naomi leaned over to read the title page. Whisper in the Wind. The untold story of America's most lethal ghost. Will it work? Alana asked, uncertainty creeping into her voice for the first time. People love conspiracy theories about secret government programs, Ranger replied, checking his burner phone for updates, especially ones with a kernel of truth. Naomi nodded. The veterans will know. They've heard the rumors for years, the invisible sniper, the shots that couldn't be made. They'll recognize the truth even disguised as fiction. Within 48 hours, digital copies of Whisper in the Wind began circulating on veteran forums, military message boards, and specialized chat groups. Initially dismissed as creative fiction, the story gained traction when certain details rang too true to be invented. Specific operations, geographical markers, tactics that were never made public. A retired sergeant major in Kansas posted, I was in Fallujah 2004. Saw that impossible shot described on page 83. Always wondered who made it. Now I know. A former intelligence officer wrote, the Congo operation wasn't fiction. I processed those reports. Whisper lives began trending in encrypted military forums, spreading like wildfire through networks of those who served. At Red Point, Technology's headquarters, Colt Redding stared at his tablet, face grim as his security chief briefed him on the latest developments. The story's gone viral in military circles, sir. Veterans are claiming it confirms rumors they've heard for years. The man swiped to another screen. And the team we sent to the mountains, they were neutralized. 1 fatality, 2 with serious injuries. Colt hurled his tablet across the room. She's playing me. Sir, this is exactly what she wants. Drawing attention, creating whispers, making me look over my shoulder. He paced the length of his office. She's trying to rattle me before the weapons expo. The security chief shifted uncomfortably. Should we postpone? Absolutely not. We accelerate. Colt straightened his tie, composure returning. Move the demonstration. Up to next week, maximum security, and deploy RS-7. The prototype isn't fully tested. It's tested enough to hunt 1 woman. Colt turned to the wall of screens displaying the sprawling Red Point compound. Load it with everything we have on her. Congo footage, shooting patterns, psychological profile. I wanted to know her better than she knows herself. Deep in the Virginia forest, Naomi slipped between trees like a shadow, moving with the silence that had earned her call sign. 200 yards behind her, the sleek shape of RS-7 hovered, its sensors scanning the terrain for heat signatures, movement patterns, and disturbances in the undergrowth. The AI drone had picked up her trail 3 hours earlier, dispatched after facial recognition caught her on a traffic camera near Roanoke. Now, predator and prey engaged in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Naomi moved downwind, careful to leave misleading tracks. She'd learned long ago how to fool electronic surveillance, walking in streams to mask heat signatures, using natural formations to block sensor angles, creating decoys to trigger false positives. The machine was learning, adapting to her tactics, but so was she. Each time it recalibrated, she changed her approach. Back at the cabin, Ranger monitored the drone's movements through a hacked feed on his laptop, communicating with Naomi through a subdermal earpiece. "It's adjusting its sweep pattern," he warned. "Coming around from the East Ridge now." "Copy," Naomi whispered, barely moving her lips. Time for the heart trick. She removed a small device from her pocket, a medical-grade pulse simulator they'd modified from equipment in the bunker. Setting it to match her normal heartbeat, she placed it beneath a fallen log, covered it with her jacket, and moved away in the opposite direction. Aura 7 detected the heartbeat and adjusted course, sensors locking onto the heat signature and rhythmic pulse. As it closed in on the decoy, Naomi circled behind it, studying its construction, movements, and targeting systems. "Just as I thought," she subvocalized to Ranger. "It's based on the IX-72 platform. Same weaknesses at the sensor junction." The drone hovered over her jacket, confused by the heartbeat without corresponding body mass. As its processors worked to resolve the inconsistency, Naomi slipped away, gathering the intelligence they needed. She was nearly a mile away when the drone finally determined the decoy nature of its target. By then, she had disappeared into terrain too dense for aerial pursuit. At the cabin, Alana monitored news feeds and social media reaction to her story, while Ranger maintained communication with Naomi. A notification pinged on her laptop. A message from Colonel Mendoza through the secure channel they'd established. "Been waiting for this." Attached was a file containing contact information for 7 former military personnel, each with connections to Black Echo or knowledge of its operations. Some had already responded to the whisper story with cryptic confirmations. Others had remained silent, but Mendoza's message suggested they were watching, waiting for a signal. "The old guard is responding," Alana told Ranger. "Mendoza's bringing people in." "Good. We'll need them." Ranger's weathered face showed the first hint of hope since his arrival. This was never going to be a 3-person operation. Naomi returned at dusk, mud-streaked and exhausted but carrying valuable intelligence. Aura 7 has 3 critical vulnerabilities, she reported, sketching the drone's design from memory. "Sensor relay points here, and here. Main processor housing is poorly shielded, and the targeting system requires 4 seconds of continuous lock before firing. Too long." "Can we use that?" Alana asked. "We can," Naomi confirmed. "But first, we need to access Redding's primary database, the one storing all Black Echo operations." Ranger looked up sharply. "The analog storage? That's a myth. Black Echo missions were never recorded." "They told us that," Naomi agreed. "But Colt's former security head contacted Mendoza last year before dying of cancer, confessed that Redding maintained a private surveillance bunker where all operations were recorded, insurance against ever being implicated." "Where?" Ranger demanded. "Beneath the Red Point testing facility, where the Weapons Expo will be held next week." Naomi spread out the facility blueprints they'd acquired. "We'll never get a better opportunity to access it." As they plotted their approach, Naomi's phone chimed with an alert. The message contained a single image, a long-range surveillance photo of her walking through the forest, clearly taken by Aura 7, with crosshairs superimposed over her head. The accompanying text, "Rid, I missed this time, on purpose." Naomi's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes hardened. She walked to the window, staring out at the gathering darkness. "What is it?" Alana asked. "He's testing me, showing off his toy." Naomi turned back to them. Time to respond. The next morning, as Colt Redding reviewed security footage from his private estate, he noticed something unusual. The camera monitoring his personal garden had shifted position slightly. Checking the feed, he found the lens had been shot out, a clean, precise shot from a distance well beyond his perimeter sensors. In the garden itself, security found a single rifle cartridge pressed into the soil of his prize roses. Attached was a handwritten note. "I haven't even started." Colt's face went pale, then flushed with rage. "She was here," he hissed. "On my property. Find out how." But the security team found nothing. No footprints, no disturbed locks, no additional evidence. Just the impossible shot and the mocking message. It was the opening move in a chess game that both players had been preparing for over 15 years. The Weapons Expo was a week away, moved up at Colt's insistence. Red Point Technologies campus buzzed with activity. Security personnel, technical teams, media coordinators, all preparing for what Colt had promised would be a transformative moment in defense technology. Behind the scenes, his composure was cracking. The Whisper story had spread far beyond military circles, picking up mainstream attention. Several news outlets had run features questioning whether the fictional Whisper might be based on a real operative. Veterans had begun coming forward with anonymous accounts of impossible shots and rescue operations conducted by an unseen sniper. "Shut it down," Colt ordered his PR team. "Discredit the story. Call it conspiracy theories and stolen valor." "We're trying, sir," his communications director replied. But Colonel Mendoza gave an interview on the Wilson podcast yesterday. "What?" Colt's voice was dangerously quiet. She swallowed nervously. "He didn't confirm anything specific, but he said, and I quote, 'There are operations this country has conducted that will never be acknowledged, performed by soldiers who officially don't exist. I've worked with such people. They deserve better than erasure.'" The interview had gone viral when retired General David Lancaster, a highly respected former Joint Chiefs member, had shared it with a single comment. Echo unburied. Colt dismissed his team and locked himself in his office, pulling up classified files on his secure server. If Whisper was mobilizing her old contacts, he needed to know who might surface. He scrolled through personnel files, crossing off those confirmed dead, noting those still potentially active. His phone rang, a secure line used only for his most sensitive contacts. "What?" "Sir, there's been a breach at the Utah facility." The voice belonged to his head of special security. "Someone accessed the Aura-7 test systems last night, uploaded something." "What was uploaded?" "Some kind of decision tree algorithm. We're still analyzing, but initial tests show the system becoming hesitant when presented with certain combat scenarios." "Explain." "When we simulate civilian presence or potential collateral damage, the targeting protocol now initiates an extended verification process that wasn't in the original programming." Colt slammed his fist on the desk. "She's corrupting my AI with her precious morality." He took a breath, forcing calm. "Purge the system. Full reset to factory protocols." "Sir, that would eliminate months of machine learning." "Do it. Now." After hanging up, Colt stared at the wall of awards and photographs documenting his meteoric rise. Everything he'd built was at risk because of one woman who refused to stay buried. In a hotel room in Arlington, Virginia, Naomi sat across from an aging man in an expensive suit, General Thomas Whitaker, former Special Operations Commander and current board member for several defense contractors, including Red Point. "This meeting never happened," Whitaker said, nervously adjusting his tie. "I'm only here because Lancaster insisted." "Yet here you are," Naomi observed calmly. In the corner, Alana sat with a camera discreetly recording. "What do you want, Whisper?" Whitaker asked, using her call sign as both acknowledgement and surrender. "The truth, on record. About Black Echo, Congo. The decision to erase us." Whitaker's face aged 10 years in an instant. "You don't understand the complexity." "I understand perfectly," Naomi interrupted. "Political expediency, avoiding congressional oversight, preventing questions about women in combat roles, covering up Redding's intelligence failure." "It wasn't just Redding," Whitaker protested. "There were layers of approval." "Say it," Naomi demanded, her voice quiet but unyielding. The general looked away, then back, resignation in his eyes. "We created Black Echo because we needed deniable assets, operators whose very existence violated military policy, but whose skills were too valuable to ignore." When the Congo operation went sideways, the potential exposure was deemed an unacceptable risk. The unit was disbanded, records purged. And the operatives? Reassigned, given cover identities. Most accepted the arrangement. Most, Naomi repeated, but not all. Whitaker's expression darkened. Some were considered continuing security risks. Those decisions were made at levels above me. You mean Maria, James, the training accident and the suicide? The general didn't answer, which was, "Answer enough. Say it for the camera, General. America deserves to know what was done in its name." "We buried Black Echo to avoid a PR disaster," Whitaker finally admitted. "And yes, certain operators were neutralized when they threatened to go public." When the interview was complete, Naomi left Whitaker with a flash drive containing the full Congo mission file. "Review your conscience, General," she said from the doorway. "Then decide which side of history you want to be on next week." Back at their temporary base, a farmhouse outside Arlington secured through Mendoza's connections, Naomi, Ranger, and Alana consolidated their intelligence. "Whitaker's testimony completes the picture," Alana said, reviewing her notes. "Combined with the Whisper story and the veteran accounts coming in, we have enough to expose the whole operation." "Not without proof," Ranger cautioned. "Testimony alone won't be enough against someone with Redding's connections." "That's why we need access to his bunker during the expo," Naomi reminded them. "The analog tapes are the only irrefutable evidence. Their planning was interrupted by an unexpected visitor, a man in tactical gear who approached the farmhouse openly, hands visible. Ranger covered him from an upstairs window while Naomi met him at the door, pistol concealed behind her back. "Marcus King," the man introduced himself. "Former Delta, then private security. Redding hired me to find you." "Yet here you are, approaching alone and exposed," Naomi observed. "Interesting career strategy." "I know who you are," King said simply. "I was in Kandahar 2004. You saved my team when that school collapsed. Command said no sniper was deployed that day. I knew it was a lie." Naomi's posture shifted slightly. Not quite relaxation, but a subtle acknowledgement. "Redding's offering $5 million for your location," King continued. "Double if you're taken out during his demonstration. And you're here because? Because I owe you. And because I've seen Redding's operation from the inside. He has a surveillance bunker beneath the main facility. Everything Black Echo ever did is stored there on old tape reels. It's his insurance policy." Naomi nodded. "We know. What you don't know is that he's accelerated the timeline. Demonstration's been moved up to Thursday. And he's doubled security, former operators, all with kill authorization." After King left with a secured communication channel to contact them, Alana looked troubled. "Can we trust him?" "We'll verify the information," Ranger replied, already on his laptop. "But if he's right about the accelerated timeline, we need to move faster." "The plan remains the same," Naomi said, studying the facility blueprints. "We infiltrate during the expo. Ranger accesses the bunker while I keep Redding occupied. Alana manages the information release." "And the additional security?" Alana asked. "Just means more witnesses when the truth comes out." Naomi's expression was determined. "They think they're protecting Redding. They'll soon learn they're guarding a war criminal." As their preparations intensified, Ranger received word from his contacts inside the Red Point facility. The AURA-7 system had been reset, purged of the moral framework Naomi had uploaded. It was now being programmed with a single primary target profile. Whisper. "He's removed the safety protocols," Ranger reported grimly. "The AI is now authorized for lethal force without human confirmation." "Good," Naomi said, checking her weapons one final time. "An AI is only as ethical as the person who programs it. Let Redding show his true self to the world." The night before the expo, Alana found Naomi sitting alone on the farmhouse porch, staring at the stars. For the first time since this began, her aunt looked tired, not physically, but in a deeper sense. "Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if you'd never joined Black Echo?" Alana asked, sitting beside her. Naomi considered the question. "Sometimes. I might have had a family, a normal career, fewer nightmares." She smiled faintly. But I wouldn't trade what I did. Those children in Congo would be dead. Those hostages, in Kandahar too. Some of your freedom was purchased with my anonymity. That doesn't seem fair. War rarely is. Naomi turned to her niece. Whatever happens tomorrow, I need you to know something. I've never been prouder than watching you find this story and pursue the truth, no matter where it led. Even though I was manipulated into exposing you, especially then. You could have walked away when things got dangerous. You didn't. Alana took her aunt's hand. What happens after, if we succeed? I don't know, Naomi admitted. Never planned for an after. One step at a time. Dawn found them ready, communications checked, weapons prepared, disguises arranged. The small team that would change military history gathered one last time before departing. Justice doesn't come in pieces, Naomi told them, eyes alight with purpose. It comes in fire. As the Red Point Weapons Expo opened to invited guests, a cargo van approached the service entrance. Inside, Ranger, disguised as technical support, prepared to infiltrate the facility's lower levels. Alana, posing as media, had already cleared security with impeccable false credentials provided by Mendoza's network. Across town, Naomi changed into the uniform of Red Point's private security force, acquired through King's connections. Her hair was now cropped short, her appearance altered just enough to pass casual inspection. The legendary sniper had become invisible again, hiding in plain sight, moving through the world unnoticed, just as she had for 15 years of classified operations. In his private suite, Colt Redding reviewed his presentation notes, unaware that the ghost he'd tried to erase was already inside his fortress, methodically dismantling the empire he'd built on lies and buried bodies. The final confrontation was about to begin. The Red Point Technologies Expo Center gleamed like a fortress of glass and steel under the morning sun. Security checkpoints controlled every entrance, with armed guards, metal detectors, and facial recognition scanners, processing the stream of defense contractors, military officials, foreign dignitaries, and media representatives. Inside the main exhibition hall, technicians made final adjustments to the Aura-7 display. The sleek gunmetal gray drone hung suspended above a circular stage, its weapons systems prominently featured. Digital displays surrounding it showcased simulated battlefield scenarios where the AI had supposedly outperformed human snipers. Colt Redding moved through the space like a conductor before his orchestra, immaculate in a tailored suit, projecting confidence despite the tension evident in his shoulders. His security chief remained close, coordinating teams through an earpiece. "Perimeter secure, sir," the man reported. "All guests accounted for. No signs of Harris or her associates." "She'll come," Colt replied, adjusting his cufflinks. "She won't be able to resist. And if she does?" Colt's smile was cold. "Then Aura-7 gets a live demonstration instead of a simulated one." At the media entrance, Alana presented her credentials. My press pass for Jennifer Carson from Defense Technology Review. The scanner beeped confirmation, and she was ushered inside with other journalists. She wore a conservative pantsuit, hair pulled back, glasses adding to her disguise. A small camera disguised as a pen was clipped to her lapel, while a more substantial camera hung around her neck. "First time at Red Point?" asked a fellow reporter as they moved toward the press section. "Yes," Alana replied with a practiced smile. "Heard great things about their new AI system. Redding's betting his whole company on it. Word is, military contracts worth billions are riding on today's demo." Alana nodded, taking her assigned seat near the front of the press area. From here, she had clear sightlines to both the main stage and a service corridor leading to the facilities' lower levels. Her phone buzzed with a secure message. "In position." Our ranger had entered 30 minutes earlier with a maintenance crew, his worker's uniform and forged ID badge drawing no special attention. Now he was making his way toward the building's central utility hub, where access to the subterranean levels could be found. The most difficult infiltration was Naomi's. As Colt's paranoia had grown, he'd added biometric verification for all security personnel. The facial recognition system would immediately flag her if she attempted to enter normally. Instead, she'd taken a far riskier approach. 2 hours before the event, a catering truck had delivered refreshments for the expo staff. Hidden in a compartment beneath stacked boxes of coffee supplies, Naomi had been wheeled straight through the loading dock security. Now, dressed in the black tactical uniform of Red Point's elite security team, she moved with purpose through the building's maintenance corridors, a stolen ID clipped to her vest. The first phase of their plan was in motion. Ranger encountered his first obstacle at the utility hub. 2 guards were stationed outside, checking IDs of anyone attempting to access the restricted area. "System upgrade for the main presentation," he explained, showing his forged credentials. "Mr. Redding wants no technical glitches during the demonstration." One guard checked his tablet. "Don't see any scheduled maintenance." Last-minute request. "Call it in if you need to, but if something goes wrong with the feed during Redding's big moment." He left the implication hanging. The guards exchanged looks. "Make it quick," the senior one finally said, swiping his access card. Once inside, Ranger moved quickly to a maintenance terminal, plugging in a specialized device Mendoza had provided. Within seconds, he had access to the building's internal systems. He disabled specific security cameras along his planned route, looped footage in others, and most importantly, unlocked the restricted elevator leading to the lower levels. "Pathway clear," he subvocalized into his concealed mic. "Moving to Phase 2. Alana received the message through her earpiece as Colt Redding took the stage to thunderous applause. She activated the camera pen, beginning to record as he launched into his presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen, today marks the dawn of a new era in defense technology," Colt announced, his voice echoing through the hall. "For centuries, the skilled sniper has been the most precise instrument of military force. Today, that changes. Behind him, massive screens displayed dramatic footage of Aura 7 in action, striking targets with uncanny precision, navigating complex environments, operating in weather conditions that would ground human snipers. Human error, emotion, fatigue. These limitations have always defined the boundaries of combat effectiveness," Colt continued. "Aura 7 eliminates these variables. It never tires, never hesitates, never questions." Alana's eyes narrowed at this last point, recognizing it as a direct reference to Naomi's actions in Congo. She glanced toward the service corridor, where a shadow moved. Naomi, right on schedule. As the presentation continued, Alana activated the second phase of their plan, connecting her phone to the Expo Center's unsecured guest Wi-Fi. The specialized program Ranger had installed began its work, quietly infiltrating the presentation system. Deep beneath the facility, Ranger had reached his target, a reinforced door marked Archive, Authorized Personnel Only. The keypad lock required a 6-digit code, which Marcus King had provided. He entered the numbers, holding his breath until the light flashed green. Inside was a windowless room filled with old-fashioned tape reels on metal shelves. Analog storage, chosen specifically because it couldn't be hacked remotely or erased. With an EMP, each shelf was labeled by year and operation code. "I'm in," he whispered. "It's all here. Everything." He quickly located the section marked Echo OPS 2002-2005 and began photographing the labels with a specialized scanner that could read through the protective cases. The final shelf contained what they needed most: tapes labeled Congo, Sandstorm, Complete. Removing a small device from his pocket, Ranger connected it to the room's outdated but functional computer terminal. This would be the trickiest part: digitizing selected portions of the analog tapes and preparing them for transmission. Naomi moved through the expo center with the confident stride of someone who belonged there. Years of operating in hostile territory had taught her to blend seamlessly into any environment. Security personnel barely glanced at her as she positioned herself along the wall of the main exhibition hall, just another guard ensuring the event's safety. From here, she had a perfect view of Colt on stage, now demonstrating Aura 7's targeting capabilities using simulated scenarios. The system can identify, track, and neutralize targets based on specific parameters, he explained to the rapt audience. Even the most elusive subjects can be located and eliminated. The screens behind him showed heat signatures being tracked. Through dense forest, footage Naomi recognized from her own encounter with the drone days earlier. Her hand moved to her earpiece. "Status?" she sub-vocalized. "Archive located," came Ranger's hushed reply. "Digitizing key footage now. 5 minutes. To transfer." "Feed is ready," Alana confirmed. "Waiting for your signal." Naomi checked her watch. Everything was aligned for the moment she'd been planning since receiving that bullet in her mailbox. The moment 15 years of buried truth would finally see daylight. Colt was building to his crescendo, the audience completely engaged, too. "Truly appreciate Aura 7's capabilities. We've programmed it with the most challenging target parameters possible," he announced. "Based on a legendary but unverified military asset, a sniper so skilled that some claim the records were deliberately erased." A murmur ran through the crowd. Many recognized the reference to the whisper story that had been circulating. "Today, we put those myths to rest," Colt declared. "Aura 7 doesn't just match the best human performance. It exceeds it." He turned to a technician. "Initiate the whisper simulation." As the command was entered, Alana pressed execute on her phone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive screens flickered. Instead of the planned simulation, grainy footage appeared, clearly from a military operation. A younger Colt Redding stood in a dusty village, speaking to a local official. Money changed hands. Weapons were visible in the background. "What the hell?" Colt's voice boomed over the speakers as he stared up at the screens in shock. The footage changed to show the aftermath of an attack. Bodies in the street. Buildings burning. Then a timestamp appeared, followed by mission logs detailing how intelligence had been falsified, leading to civilian casualties. Colt lunged toward the technicians. "Shut it down! Now!" But it was too late. The system had been completely overridden. Now the screen showed footage of a female sniper providing cover as children were evacuated from a compound under fire, unmistakably Naomi, though her face was partially obscured. The final document appeared, a classified order signed by Colt authorizing the elimination of Black Echo operatives who posed a security risk. The exhibition hall erupted in chaos. Military officials rose from their seats, demanding explanations. Journalists frantically photographed the screens. Security personnel looked to Colt for direction, but he was already moving, not toward the stage controls, but toward a concealed exit behind the main platform. "He's running," Naomi said into her mic, already in pursuit. Headed for the emergency exit, Alana stood, capturing every moment with her camera. "It's done. The upload is complete, going to every major news outlet and military command center." Colt burst through the emergency exit into a maintenance corridor, 2 security guards flanking him. His face was flushed with rage and panic as he pulled out his phone. "Activate Aura 7 targeting. Override code Sierra Tango 991. "Sir, there are civilians," one guard began. "Do it now," Colt barked, hurrying toward the executive elevator that would take him to the underground parking garage where a vehicle waited. They rounded a corner and froze. Naomi stood blocking their path, her security uniform discarded to reveal tactical gear underneath. Her rifle was raised, aimed with the steady precision that had made her a legend. "That's far enough, Colt," she said calmly. The security guards reached for their weapons, but Naomi's voice stopped them. "I'm not here for you. Walk away now, and you walk away clean." Something in her tone, the absolute certainty behind it, made the men hesitate. They looked at Colt, whose face had gone pale. "She's a terrorist," he shouted. "Take her down." Instead, the guards slowly lowered their weapons and backed away. Colt's reputation versus the evidence they'd just witnessed on screen. The choice wasn't difficult. "You cowards," Colt screamed after them before turning back to Naomi. "You think this changes anything? I still have friends at the highest levels. This will all be buried again by tomorrow." "No, Colt, not this time." Naomi took a step forward. "The world saw. The Pentagon saw. There's no putting this back in the box." A mechanical whir from above made them both look up. Aura 7 had entered the corridor through a ventilation shaft, its weapon system locked on Naomi. Colt's panicked expression morphed into triumph. It recognizes you, the perfect target. He backed toward the elevator. Goodbye, Whisper. But Naomi didn't run or take cover. Instead, she lowered her rifle and looked directly into the drone's optical sensors. Aura 7, execute authentication protocol, Echo Whisper 3. The drone hesitated, its targeting system flickering. What are you doing? Colt demanded. Your reset wasn't complete, Naomi explained calmly. Your team purged the moral framework, but they missed the deep code I embedded. A recognition protocol keyed to my voice pattern and specific command sequences. The drone continued to hover, weapon still trained on Naomi but not firing. That's impossible, Colt whispered. You built a kingdom on the backs of ghosts, Naomi said, raising her rifle again. I'm here to collect. Colt lunged for the elevator, jabbing frantically at the call button. As the doors opened, he drew a concealed handgun, firing wildly at Naomi. She ducked, returning fire with a precision shot that struck his leg, sending him crashing to the floor. He dragged himself halfway, into the elevator, still reaching for the control panel when Naomi approached. For a terrible moment, Colt stared up at the barrel of her rifle, certain his life was about to end. Instead, Naomi kicked his gun away and pulled him fully into the corridor. You don't deserve a quick end, she said, securing his hands with zip ties. You deserve to face everyone you betrayed. Colt's eyes blazed with hatred and fear. You could have had everything. Power, money, recognition. Why throw it all away for people who never even knew you existed? Because that was never the point, Naomi replied, hauling him to his feet. Some of us serve without needing the glory. By the time Naomi emerged into the main exhibition hall, dragging a wounded Colt, the situation had transformed. FBI agents had secured the building. Military police were interviewing witnesses. News cameras captured every moment as Naomi handed Colt over to federal authorities. Colonel Mendoza approached, accompanied by several senior military officials. You've set off a firestorm, Master Sergeant, he said, his formal address acknowledging her true rank for the first time in years. It was long overdue, sir, she replied. Reporters swarmed around them, shouting questions. One voice rose above. The others, who are you, really? Naomi looked directly into the cameras. This moment, after 15 years of shadows and silence, demanded truth. My name is Naomi Harris. They called me Whisper. I was never supposed to exist, but now, you all do. The statement rippled through the crowd and across airwaves, cementing a legend that had lived in whispers and rumors for over a decade. As federal agents led Colt away, his empire crumbling around him, Ranger joined Naomi and Alana near the exit. The archives? Naomi asked quietly. Secured, Ranger confirmed. Complete copy transmitted to 7 separate secure locations. It can never be buried again. Alana looked at her aunt with new understanding. What happens now? Naomi watched as Colt disappeared into a government vehicle, his future now as uncertain as hers had been for so many years. Now, she said, we make sure the ghosts are finally heard. 3 months passed. Autumn painted the Virginia hills in gold and crimson as Naomi stood on the porch of her modest home, watching the sunrise with a cup of coffee warming her hands. The media storm had eventually subsided, leaving in its wake a transformed landscape, both personal and political. She heard Alana's car coming up the driveway long before it appeared around the bend. Her niece had changed too, more confident, more focused. The Pulitzer Committee had shortlisted her comprehensive series on Black Echo, now running in major publications worldwide. Morning, Alana called, carrying a thick envelope as she climbed the porch steps. Just got the advance copies. She handed Naomi a hardcover book. Whisper in the Wind, the true story of America's ghost sniper. Naomi's name was listed as a contributor alongside Alana's, with a foreword by Colonel Mendoza. Still feels strange, Naomi said, turning the book in her hands, seeing it all in print. People needed to know the truth, Alana replied, settling into a chair beside her aunt. Not just about you, but about all of them. The them she referred to were the other Black Echo operatives, those who had survived and those who hadn't. In the months following the expo, investigations had uncovered the full extent of the program and its subsequent cover-up. Congressional hearings were ongoing, military policies were being revised, and most importantly to Naomi, the fallen were finally being acknowledged. "Have you heard from Ranger?" Alana asked. Naomi nodded. "He's in Washington today. The memorial design is being finalized." The Black Echo Memorial had been approved for Arlington National Cemetery, a simple black granite wall bearing the names and call signs of operators who had served in the unit, including those who had been erased after Congo. Maria would have hated all this attention, Naomi said with a small smile. "But she would have loved the justice," Alana replied. Their conversation paused as another vehicle approached, an official government car. Senator Lauren Bennett, the newly appointed head of the Senate Intelligence Oversight Committee, had become an unlikely ally in the push for transparency and reform. "Ms. Harris," the senator greeted as she joined them on the porch. "The president signed the Ranger Act this morning. Named after Thomas Reed, the legislation established new protections for covert operators and whistleblowers, ensuring that no future unit could be erased for political convenience." "James would be proud," Naomi said quietly, thinking of her fallen teammate whose death had been falsely labeled a suicide. "There's something else," Bennett continued, handing Naomi an official envelope. "Your records have been unsealed and restored, all of them. The Joint Chiefs wanted you to have this before the public ceremony next week." Inside was a silver star, one of several commendations that had been stripped from her official record when Black Echo was disbanded. "I didn't do it for medals," Naomi said, closing the box. "No," Bennett agreed. "You did it despite knowing you'd never receive them. That's why you deserve them now." After the senator departed, Naomi and Alana sat in comfortable silence, watching. Birds flit between the autumn trees. "Something unexpected came by yesterday," Naomi finally said. "A letter from a girl in Mississippi, 12 years old, says she read about me and wants to learn how to shoot." "What will you tell her?" Naomi smiled, remembering her grandfather's gentle guidance all those years ago. "First, learn how to breathe." The trial of Colt Redding dominated news cycles for weeks. Charged with multiple counts of conspiracy, fraud, obstruction of justice, and violations of international law, he faced the public reckoning he had so desperately tried to avoid. Naomi attended only once, on the day she was called to testify. Her testimony was measured, precise, devoid of personal vendetta, despite everything he had done. She recounted the Congo operation in clinical detail, explained the subsequent cover-up, and confirmed the authenticity of the archived footage. When asked about her feelings toward the defendant, she surprised the courtroom with her response. "I don't hate Colt Redding. I pity him. He never understood that true strength isn't found in erasing others to elevate yourself. It's found in standing up when no one will ever know your name." Colt, hollow-eyed and diminished in his prison jumpsuit, couldn't meet her gaze. Outside the courthouse, reporters thrust microphones toward her. "Will justice be served today, Ms. Harris?" "Justice isn't just about one man's punishment," she replied. "It's about systemic change. That work is just beginning." On a crisp November morning, the first official reunion of Black Echo veterans took place at Colonel Mendoza's lakeside home. Only 7 had survived to see this day, but they gathered with a sense of both solemnity and celebration. Ranger was there, still walking with a slight limp from his encounter with Aura 7 during those tense days before the expo. He and Naomi stood side by side as Mendoza raised a toast, to those who lived in the shadows so others could stand in the light. Later, as they walked along the lakeshore, Ranger handed Naomi a small package. "Found this in the archives. Thought you should have it." Inside was an old cassette tape labeled simply, "Echo Team, Downtime, Kandahar 2004. When played on Mendoza's vintage stereo, it revealed ordinary moments. Team members playing cards, sharing jokes, Maria teaching everyone a dance to a popular song of that era. Tears filled Naomi's eyes as she watched these ghosts live again, her stoic composure finally cracking at these simple human moments that had been denied official existence. "This is what they tried to erase," she whispered. "Not," Just operations, people, lives. 1 year after the Expo revelation, Naomi and Alana returned to Precision Elite, the shooting range where it had all begun. The facility had new ownership now, a veteran-owned company committed to inclusivity and education. They had invited Naomi to test their redesigned course. As she prepared her rifle, the same Winchester her grandfather had taught her with, a group of young shooters watched with reverent attention. "Is it true you can hit a target from 2 miles away?" one asked. "On a good day, with the right conditions," Naomi replied modestly. She completed the course with her characteristic precision, but this time there was no mockery, only respect. Afterward, the manager approached with an unexpected question. "We're starting a training program for disadvantaged youth, teaching discipline, focus, responsibility. Would you consider being an instructor?" Naomi thought about the young girl from Mississippi who had written to her, about her grandfather's patient lessons on that back porch so many years ago, about all the young people who might benefit from the skills she'd spent a lifetime perfecting. "I'd be honored," she said. The Black Echo Memorial was dedicated on a snow-dusted December morning. Hundreds gathered despite the cold. Military personnel, government officials, families of the fallen, and ordinary citizens who had been moved by the story of the invisible operators who had served without recognition. Naomi stood beside the bossa other survivors as the black granite was unveiled, each name etched into the stone now permanent, undeniable. Maria, James, Eric, and so many others. As the ceremony concluded, Naomi placed a single bullet at the base of the memorial. The same one ranger had left in her mailbox, which had set everything in motion. A young reporter approached cautiously. "Ms. Harris, how does it feel to finally receive recognition after all these years?" Naomi considered the question, watching snowflakes settle on the memorial stone. "Some wars end in silence. Some in flame," she replied finally. "Mine ended when I remembered who I was, and made the world remember too." The years that followed brought changes Naomi could never have anticipated. Alana's book became required reading at military academies. The shooting program for disadvantaged youth expanded, nationally. The Ranger Act transformed how covert operations were documented and overseen. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came 5 years later, on the porch of her grandfather's old home in Mississippi, which Naomi had restored with her long-denied back pay. A teenage girl aimed carefully at a row of cans on the fence, her breath creating small clouds in the winter air. When she fired, the can flew backward with a satisfying ping. "I did it," she exclaimed, the same words Naomi had spoken on this very spot over 50 years earlier. "You sure did," Naomi replied, her silver hair catching the late afternoon sun. "But remember what I always say. A gun isn't a toy, it's a responsibility," the girl recited. "And you never point it at anything you don't intend to destroy." Naomi smiled, feeling the circle complete itself. She had gone from erased to remembered, from shadow to mentor. As the sun set over the fields where her journey had begun, she felt a peace that had eluded her for decades. In the distance, birds took flight against the darkening sky. Naomi watched them until they disappeared, whispering a silent farewell to the ghosts who had walked beside her all these years, now finally at rest. The simple black woman who had once been mocked at a shooting range had become a living legend. Her true legacy not in the shots she had taken, but in the truth she had finally brought to light. To the ones they tried to erase, what would you fight for if the world erased your existence? What truth matters enough to break your silence? If this story of justice and redemption resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful narratives that explore the strength hiding in ordinary lives.